Hello, good morning. Okay, so I'm going to go over your number jumble project, which is the first real project, first full project. You can see under the sheet here, under the project instructions, we have a project sheet for Soundtrap and one for Mixcraft. So we want to make sure that you click the correct ones. It's the same thing, but some of the examples and some of the um, links, shortcuts, all of that stuff is different a little bit for Soundtrap. The first thing we want to do is to download the master audio because this is not a direct link to the file, or it is a direct link to the file and not a link to the Google Drive folder. If you click on it, it will just play it. So we don't want to just play it, we want to download it. So you have to right click and open in a new tab. It will open a new tab and you will download over here at the top right. I already downloaded it a bunch of times, but if you click on the little arrow, you can just click the show in folder. If you're using most browsers, it will automatically download the file. If you're using, I know specifically Microsoft Explorer, Internet Explorer, you will have to click save before downloading anything. So you can see that I have a couple files here, so I'm just going to delete the previous files. In most cases, it will download automatically and right into your downloads folder, and you can just close the tab when you're done. I gave you a link to the screenshots drive folder because there is a limit on how many files I can upload. So if you need any instructions, you can just go to screenshots and you'll see Audacity Soundtrap. You'll see that there's a bunch. Just scroll down from 1 to 14. There's 14 handy examples, and of course use the video as well. Okay, so now I'm going to open the project sheet and I'm going to keep it on the other screen so I can show you Soundtrap on this one. And this gives you the directions here, which are very similar to what I did, but I just didn't give you some of the breakdowns. Okay, so let's find Soundtrap. And if you're in here, when you sign in, you can just click Enter Studio. It will load. We are making a music, again, composition. So you can just click Import File, or if you click Add Track, you can also import file that way. Doesn't really matter as long as you get your number jumble master in there. You can see that kind of everything's in there, but you can't see it well. So I'm going to hold down Control and scroll up so that you can see them a little better. If you zoom in very much, you will actually see the exact audio file. The audio track. You can kind of see where the silence is, where the sound is. If you zoom out, it kind of goes into these bars that I just don't think are as handy. If you just zoom out and you play it, you will probably notice that the sound is reversed. So the first thing you want to do is reverse the audio, and the easiest way to do that is to just click on this little edit button right here and reverse. We'll automatically adjust it.
9, 1, 3, 7.
Cool. So now we have the numbers there in the correct, facing direction, and we want to separate them and rearrange them to be in the correct order. This does start at 0, not at 1. So I want it to count from 0 up to 9. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and you can. One thing you want to do is turn this little magnet off because it snaps to grid and you don't want that right now. So you want to, since we're right at the beginning, you can just click the end and drag it. And this will be the beginning of the number 9. So once you trim the beginning, you can also just drag this, the indicator to where the sound ends, and you can zoom in if you would like, but you do want to get pretty exact. And you can either click Edit and Split, or you can just press Control E. That might be easier. So again, you can trim it over here, and then just use the cursor and Control E to separate the audio. And you're going to do this for all 10 numbers. Control E, trim. In some cases, the audio, you just want to make sure that you're listening to the audio, making sure that you're cutting it exactly where it starts and where it ends.
7.
So you can see that this is kind of in two parts. So I'm going to separate it here and just going to trim this.
7.
I'm going to trim this right here. Control E. Cut this. So I'm going to do this for all of the numbers, and you can also rename them. So if you again click on the edit and you edit name, this is now the number 9. The number 9 is it's actually going to rename the track, but if you hover over it, it's going to appear over there. So if you click again, edit, I think this was 1. This one?
1.
Yeah, so that's 1.
3.
This is number 3.
7.
This is number 7. So what we're going to do is you can actually duplicate the track, and you just gotta delete. Oops, don't delete everything. But you can. I guess you can't clear the track. Okay, so you can duplicate the track, and then we're actually just going to zoom out. So I know this is number 9. I'm going to move this kind of towards the end. Number 1 is not the first number. Remember, we have 0, then we have number 3. So I'm just leaving spots for all of these numbers. And you will do this for all of the numbers present, and then I will show you what to do next. Rearranged all the numbers to be in order, and they are now renamed. And the one thing that I want to mention is we turned this little magnet off earlier so you can get exact edits. But what this magnet does is it turns on the grid. So if you zoom in, you'll see that there is, there are little grid lines here, and you can change the length of each grid line by changing the note value. These are note values. So right now I'm in quarter notes. If you have eighth notes, you'll see that the grids are half the length. If you change this to half notes, then it's going to be a little longer. You still see the tick for the quarter note, but you'll see that you can't. If you try to move this, it's not going to move there. So quarter notes is the probably the best option here. And you can see the 0 is probably one of the longer numbers. So if you try to move 1, it's going to overlap. So in this case, you can either do quarter notes or half notes, and you'll see that if you try to move 1, it's now going to go either right at the beginning or over here, and same thing for 2. So now that I have all of my numbers, you can see that they're aligned to the half notes, which means that if you try to play it, they will sound evenly spaced.
0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay, so that's getting there, but that's not quite finished. Now I want to bring the numbers back down. So we want to make a copy of 8, make a copy of 7, and count back down to 0. One way to make a copy is to hold down the Alt key on the keyboard and then just click and drag. Hold down Alt, hold down Alt, oops, and then click and drag. Another way is you can right click and copy, and then right click and paste. So you do want to, again, right click, copy. You want to click where you want it to paste next, and then paste. Another option is,
5.
oh, what's going on here? Oh, it's a different. Let's go into clean. I have an effect on that track.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Cool. So we're just gonna make a copy. Easiest way. You want to make sure you're not editing the audio when you do this. So just make sure that you click on it, hold down Alt. Sometimes you have to. What's happening is area is too small, so it wants to edit the instead of just dragging it. And you can see these are renamed so that when I know what number I'm on. If I forget, if I lose track 4, 3, I know I need number 2. Just going to hover over it. You can actually select all 3 of these last ones, and I'm going to put them here, and then just drag 2, 1 back down to 0. All right. So if you count up again,
0, 1, 2, 8, 7, 2, 1, 0.
So that is 60% of the project. This is kind of just editing audio, making sure that everything's clean, everything's aligned. There's no extra space. The one thing I don't want, for example, is, I'm going to turn this off. If you have something like this,
8, 7, 8.
So you can see that the audio doesn't start until right here, but the track starts here, so it kind of makes everything uneven. So you want to make sure that you are editing the sounds and you're deleting all the silence. If you zoom in a lot,
8.
You can maybe adjust a little bit here, but
8.
the whole idea is that you are removing all the extra silence before and after the audio. So this is, again, 60% of the project, and the other 40% is the creative element. I'm going to delete the track. So next thing, I'm going to duplicate the track, and I'm just going to delete the audio on it. Now this counts up and down. You can actually, if you want, you can move everything to one track. That doesn't really matter. The creative element is going to start after all of the numbers count up from 0 up to 9 and back down to 0. It's going to say 3, 2, 1, 0, and then your creative element is going to start. I'm going to bring this back and show you that over here I did give you some examples. It goes into the examples folder for this project. You can see there's a ton and a ton of examples as to what you can do. We did use different software, so some of the effects you will find, some of them you will not. But I'll show you some of the things you can do with this program in particular. So let's just take 0. At this point, I would recommend that you turn the grid off so that if you want to make a copy, you can do something like this.
0.
You will notice that it does cut the audio out. So if you want, you can actually kind of stagger it like that. And you can make, again, you can duplicate the tracks. And you can kind of stagger them.
0.
This does cut the track here. If you put it does cut the clip if you keep it on the same track. But if you want to kind of have that up,
0.
if you want to have that effect, you do have to create multiple tracks, and you can kind of do something like this. If you want to play around with this, and kind of
0.
So that's one thing you can do. You can add a lot of effects here just by changing the sound. So if you click on the show instrument, right now it's just set to clean. So you can change, well, you can add an effect. So for example, if you do, let's do a tremolo. And you can just experiment with this, and you will see. effect. Add effect, tremolo. Add effect,
Steve.
you can change the sound here as well, or selected amp. So this does have some presets. But there are a lot of effects that you can just play around with here. You can change the sound. A lot of different effects. So this is the first time we're using Soundtrap for this project. So if you are using Soundtrap, just have fun with it. If you zoom out, this only gives you measure numbers. But if you click, there is a second counter here. So we're starting, this project at about, 20 seconds, and I want about 15 to 30 seconds of your composition. So, if you're starting at 20 at about 35, that should be the length, the minimum length of the creative portion of it, going up to about 50, probably not more than 30 seconds after the original audio. So if you're counting measures, it should be within that 27 measure mark. And that's it. Just show me all the weird things that you can come up with in terms of effects. You can change the volume. You can change, there's some automations that you can do. Just play around, have fun with it. And just remember to save your project as well. So it's going to save it. And then whenever you are finished, you want to zoom in. Some of you gave me like a screenshot like this, and then the next screenshot, next screenshot, next screenshot. You can just click the plus and minus. You can actually scroll right to the beginning, and then click minus. It's because the cursor is all the way here. If you rewind to the beginning, and then you just want to fit the entire project in one screenshot. At this point you won't be able to fit everything, so just click minus, and it is what it is. And then when you're done, just click export file to export project to MP3 file, and then it's going to download. If you don't name it here, it's going to be an untitled song. So do give me give me a title, number jumble, whatever. Get creative. Creative title, and then when you download, I'm just going to change this to example, and then export to MP3, save the project. We want you to save, and then export to MP3, and that's it. Then you are done.